Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. I apologize about the scenery back here. It's a blue bedspread at the moment. I have to do my Bible review in the bedroom because the girls have one of their friends over, and it's her birthday. So apologies for that now, and apologies for the nails. They're not horrible, but I work on a farm, so they're a tad dirty. Anyways, this is a review of the Quintil NLT dark purple goatskin full yap. Their boxes are really nice. I do like a clamshell box, but the problem with the clamshell is, as you know, if you've used it for a while, it will start wearing off. But it is what it is. And it also, if you notice, like dark purple and anything that has blue under silver, it seems like it has the silver print on the box. So it is a clamshell box. I don't have it in there now because I do one-handed reviews, unfortunately, because I don't have the fancy stuff. But anyhow, as you can see, the purple is really nice. Nice grain to it. You will, if you have oily hands at all, and you know for a fact, I would go for calfskin. I do have a calfskin review coming up on the NASB 2020 Strident. The NASB 2020. Because the purple will show, it will like have white prints, see? I kind of wiped the front off so you can see the difference, but I use this a lot, so you still see a white spot up here. The black does it too, I've noticed. I think it's something to do with the calfskin, just absorbs the oil better in your hands. But here is the silver stamped spine, Holy Bible, New Living Translation. And you have Schuyler logo there. It is perimeter stitched, as you see. And it has a tooled line all the way around the text block. The ribbons are 3 1-centimeter Beresford double satin ribbons. Very nice ribbons. And Schuyler's made me happy because they've really improved their placement game. Like, it overlaps, but it's a nice overlap, like really presentable. And as you can see, it's purple head and tail bands, and you see the silver gilt line in there already. You open it up and you have the navy blue calfskin liner with the navy blue vinyl page, and you see it's edge lined here. It doesn't seem like it comes up as far. I think it's down here as some of the Quintels. I think that's going to improve the fact that it'll open flatter earlier, because mine opened flat right out of the box pretty much. And then you have the silver gilt line, silver stamped goat skin leather cover, silver foil stamp. Some people complain about their corners. I don't get that picky, and they're nice. I don't see what people are complaining about. But so this Bible was presented to. Here's your presentation page. Marriages, births, deaths, the normal Quintil presentation page. And then here's where the modern translation really stands out, just because they kind of went modern font, kind of. I know, because I noticed, I was like, gosh, that font looks really like familiar, that font style. And I opened this up, and this is my Cameo, KJV obviously. But to me, it's almost identical font style. Maybe the B doesn't come out quite as far, but it does come out, see? So it's like a style like that almost, but modernized. So that's your title page, and then you have the other title page that has the Schuyler logo on it. And this paper's being contrary today because it's really cold here in Iowa right now. We just got over yesterday being in the single digits. So the Holy Bible, New Living Translation, Schuyler Bibles, and then you have, the Virginia, USA, published by Schuyler Bibles, SchuylerBible.com. And I think that would probably take you to the evangelical website. Here's your copyright page, and you can pause that if you wanted. But most people ain't worried about this as much. I mean, everybody goes through it, and I will not even try that French. So here's your contents pages. And I would really, if you haven't read this, I've had an NLT before, the note to the readers and the introduction to the New Living Translation. I've had it NLT before and never read that. And again, also, it was probably before 2015, my copy. Well, the copy that had this in it, and the Caxton, I can't remember if it was in there. If it was, I didn't read it for some reason. But it's very interesting, and it actually explains why they translate the things they do the way they do, more of a thought for thought. And then they also mention the fact that a lot of Bibles, like almost every Bible, is not completely literal because it wouldn't even make sense in English. And I tend to agree with that. And this whole NLT translation is just amazing. And you have the Bible translation team here. These pages are really being... I get what people say about the 28 GSM feeling flimsy, but it's really not. It's very forgiving. As you can see, I'm bending it and it just lays flat again. It's amazing paper. The opacity is amazing. You're going to see more ghosting on video and photographs more than you do in person with the naked eye. The Old Testament. So, and it's Smith sewn. I say Smith because that's, if you look it up, that comes up Smith all the time. I mean, it might be Smythe. A lot of people say Smythe. I've said Smythe. Smith, Smythe, tomato, tomato at this point. This is a 10-point Milo font. It's not 11. I don't have an 11 to compare it with. I don't even have an 8 at this point, or 8.5, whatever the personal size is. I've sold every premium Bible I had except for the Cameo, and that was only because it was in storage. At the time, we were going through a rough spell, and I sold all my premiums, so now God's got us to where I can afford to do this again, somewhat. So I have the NASB Strident and the LSB from Steadfast, the handy size 5 solas, coming for review too. And I have a feeling, you know, like I really love this NLT translation, and then you can see the silver art gilt, and then you got that contrast to that pretty blue. But and then you have your cross references down here divided by a horizontal red line, and the translator's footnotes will always be on the outside of the page. So on the right side bottom, on the right hand side, left hand side will be on the left bottom, outside, always on the outside. So as you notice, the font does carry over to there, and on the drop caps it's very, very readable. Like, I think this 10-point font is better than 11-point font, and people that complain it's 1 point, and the way they space it, it's just, to me, better. And then, you know, they divide their stuff like, then God said let there be space, and I just really prefer this for reading. But my wife is going to take it, so I've heard the NASB 2020 is a lot smoother and reading, so we'll see. I think those two will become my favorites after my wife steals this. She's already pretty much done that. Here we got, and I chatter a lot while these reviews, and I'll tell you the reason for that is because I know when I get Bibles, I don't care if somebody chatters. I will just sit here and stare at the Bible and the pages, and because especially after I order it, I can't get enough of it just to see everything about it. So I'm prepared, just like the NASB 2020 that I'm getting. It's got a typo in Philippians. It says Philippians 5 at the top of the page, and there's no chapter 5 in Philippians. But that's not a big deal to me. Like, people are making a big deal of it, and I just don't get it. I mean, it's still worth the money. A lot of people say, no, it's not. Premium Bible shouldn't have that. Maybe it shouldn't, but there's going to be times that's going to happen. And then I also apologize for the clothes over there. We just moved in here. But again, it's not about the clothes. It's about the Bible. It's just really, really well done. And a lot of people will turn to the poetry section. This is Proverbs here. So we got Psalm. And you can see every one of the drop caps are in that font. And you have the chapters like that, and that dark red, and then this little spear looking things to each side of the chapter number. I think that's really thought out, and I wish they would do that with other translations. Do some special stuff. They're not going to, from what Tim Wildsmith was saying. They're going to stay with the older translations. They're going to stay 11-point Milo font and probably have the chapter numbers right here where these drop caps are. But I think they should do something special for the ESV because it's been king for them for so long, like 8 years, probably going on 9 or whatever. So I don't know why they don't do something special for the ESV readers at least, because those guys are pretty dedicated. They and I love the ESV too. My church uses it, but I'm always different. So since my church uses it, I like to follow along in something different. They're trying to just get all kinds of angles out of the translation renderings. The LSB I do like. A lot of people are up in arms because it uses Yahweh, and to me that's just, it's really beautiful that they're bringing that back. So here's the New Testament, and right there's the title page, much like the Old Testament title page. And you have Matthew. It is black letter text in the NLT, and I kind of like that, especially since it's modern. A lot of modern translations go red letter, as you know. And I was going to see if I could find it real quick. Don't know why. There it was. Song of Solomon. The Song of Songs in some people's Bibles. I think it's Song of Solomon here. That's Song of Songs. The way it's laid out, a lot of people don't show this, and to me that's is kind of important because some people want to know, does it divide this and tell you where these people speak, like young woman, young man. Now the NASB 2020 online shows groom and bride, and I'm sure that probably carries over to the Strident. We'll see. The Strident's set up different than most Bibles. It's single column, so we'll see. See, I think like ESV, they could do something similar to the Canterbury somewhat, and then like make the single column in the middle, or even give them a strident of some sort with some drop caps. I think that would really sell in the ESV, a strident with some drop caps and a little bit of touch here, fancy touches here and there, just because it really has been king for them. Who knows? Maybe they'll do something special for them in the future, but the 10-point font, it would just fly off the shelves, especially if they went with something like a Strident and they did even a 9.5 to 9-point font and made a mid-sized Bible out of it. Oh, it is over. They will not even, I don't think they'd probably be busy for the next 2 years printing ESV Bibles. So, like I said, it's line matching. I mean, I said 10-point Milo font, but it is line matching. That's just obvious. All Schuyler Bibles that I know of are line matched. It's 28 GSM endopaque paper. I've mentioned that before because the whole fact that people complain that it feels flimsy. It doesn't really feel flimsy, and not to me. Page size is 6.1 inches by 9.1 inches, and it's 1 inch thick, the text block. And let's see, we get back here, and here's the concordance. The concordance is 114 pages long. So it's a good size concordance. People complain about the font size, but it's not really that bad. And it's funny to me because if you really watch some of the reviewers that are complaining about the font size, they'll turn around and complain that the personal size doesn't have a concordance. Well, how would you think that would work out on a smaller page? This would be so small you wouldn't be able to read it. This is still very readable. You got the red accents here, and then you have the black for the verse preview or whatever you would call it. But yeah, 114 pages of concordance. That's pretty hefty for a concordance. And I don't know. It's just pretty amazing what Schuyler can fit into these things. And then after the concordance, you have 17 pages of line paper. It could have been 18 if they'd have put an extra one in there and done away with the fact. This would be the only thing I would critique, and it's not even a big deal to me, but they put the line paper on the back of the last page of the concordance. Now that doesn't make a whole lot of crazy sense, only because it's going to bleed through 28 GSM on the notebook paper. If they'd have put notebook paper in there, the thickness of the map paper that they use would have been no issue, but with that, it's probably going to bleed through into your concordance. So most people aren't going to use that. I mean, you could start down here at where the concordance ends down in this area. But yeah, so there's 17 pages of lined notebook paper. Then you get to the maps. And this thing just wants to flip all over because, so you got the Bible Maps title page, horizontal red lines, Schuyler Publishers, Dr. Barry J. Betzel. Probably totally butchered his name, but Bible Maps, you have the contents. So you have 12 maps on a total of 16 pages because you have those double pages for maps. Randy Brown really doesn't care for this. I'm kind of in agreement with him. I mean, you could separate that like Alan. I think Alan does it, and they have just the frame around it, and it continues on the other page. Something like that. Could split your double map up like that. But I think aesthetically pleasing, it's better one continuous map. See? It just looks really nice. They know what they're doing more than we do when it comes to all that. It does look nice. And then you have the index to maps. Again, very well done. Another thing I noticed, I have had Schuylers in the past, obviously. And another thing I noticed was that their font is darker than it usually used to be. So that's something I hope they integrate into more quintels. I was going to go with an NKJV, but I've just never been able to get into the NKJV. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't read well to me. I don't know why. And I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but I just don't get it. But this NLT actually has a lot of translator footnotes as well. See here. So I think this paired with any literal rendering is going to be a very good Bible. Like, I've sat here and read it for hours and hours since I've gotten it, and I just love the translation. But like I said, my wife's going to get this one because I'll have the two NASBs, which one is LSB technically, and one's an NASB 2020. I'm more of a literal person, but she'll follow along, and I told her we'll probably have her read a section first, you know. We'll go to from a subheading to subheading or something, and then I'll read it in the more literal, because no matter if she doesn't understand the literal as much as the thought for thought, it still will start clicking, and to me it gives you more. Like, there might be words in here that are like this: men sleep with their father's wives and force themselves on women who are menstruating. You know what I mean? They'll render that different in the literal translation, obviously. It's Ezekiel 22, 10, if you want to look it up in your own Bibles, because everybody has their favorite, you know, literal translations too. So it's Ezekiel 22:10. I'll look it up in the Cameo real quick and show you how the KJV, because that seems to be the biggest part of people's favorite translation. And it renders that nakedness, maybe? Men sleep with their father's wives and force themselves on women who are menstruating. Yeah, this one says, in thee have they discovered their father's nakedness, in thee have they humbled her that was set apart for pollution. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, totally different renderings. It's just really milked down and blunt. And see, this was why they kind of went with that way on this NLT translation. They want you to have the shock value or the complete understanding that a Hebrew speaker would have when reading the original Hebrew manuscripts, it would have been plain to them. It wouldn't have been like, ooh, let's look this up on Google. Obviously, they didn't have Google. But, you know what I mean? They wouldn't have had to. Yeah, the scholars they would have read it and just been like, wow, that's really powerful. And that's kind of what this does to you, because it's like, it's almost shock value. It's like, what? Force themselves on women who are menstruating? And I mean, you could go to a literal like LSB, I'm sure it renders it different than a KJV. But that's all up to you guys. Anyhow, like I said, my ramblings are usually just so you could sit here and you could turn me off and just look at the Bible and enjoy that, because it's something that's coming to your house, you know? You kind of want to see what it's like. Yeah, I really can't find a place that kind of makes me like, ugh. And I do prefer that they keep the manuscripts in the text and then rather than a footnote. I don't know. You know what I mean? Keep the text in the text. I like the NASB, how they bracketed it. And I know the NASB 2020, at least online, seems to take out like Acts 8:37, and that's a big one. Most of them do nowadays. This one doesn't, obviously. And it's in the footnotes stating that in some of the manuscripts, it's in there, you know, like majority text or Textus Receptus. It doesn't go into as much detail, this one, as like in KJV, but it's pretty darn good. A lot of these are how the Greek rendering was, or in the case of the Old Testament, they'll say Hebrew rendering. They may even show the Greek Septuagint sometimes. But see, the meaning of the Hebrew isn't certain in 23:7, which word we'll see is costs. They are always thinking about how much it costs. So, again, it's just preference. To me, an NLT is almost a must-have. And I may even get one of these in the future if they continue having these quintels, because they're just amazing. It's like literally they took the drop caps and they made it so modern. This may be their best quintel for sure. I would say definitely their best quintel. The Strident, it's its own thing, and I love the way it's single column from what I see the reviews. And I'll know come Tuesday, God willing, we'll see how much I like it. But I've had days with this, so that's a good thing, because now I can tell you guys how much I like it. And this is definitely a must-buy. There is nothing I can find wrong in this Bible that I do not like at all. So thanks for watching. Again, grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ.